Thank you, Leanna, for sharing your gift with God and with us. That's great. Next Sunday, I'm going to start a 7-part series entitled The 7 Keys to Spiritual Growth. I encourage you all to make an effort to be here over the next 7 weeks. There may be a week in there that I skip one of those in order to do something else, but we'll see where that goes. And we also today want to say farewell to John and Shirley Johnson. They are moving this week to Florida. Now they're going to maintain a small home here in Kewanee, so they'll be back periodically. And this isn't goodbye, it's simply farewell. God's blessings on you as you start a new journey in your life. You will be missed. TV audience, I will be back. Don't give up on me. Wake up! Wake up! Wake up there! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up, TV audience! Wake up! Now, I only did that because the sermon title says in the bulletin is Wake Up. But as the week progressed, I discovered that the sermon has nothing to do with that title. So I've got the title. We're going to set that aside. And we're going to preach something different. Sorry about that, Teresa. Did you notice her music that she picked out follows that wake up theme? She thought she was going to play something that fit with the sermon, but it'll be okay. Yeah. God will still use it all. Yeah. I love chocolate. Remember that around Christmas time. January 14th is my birthday. I used to have a sweatshirt that on the front of it said, I love chocolate, but I'll settle for everything else. I love chocolate. In that passage from Romans that David read for us, the Apostle Paul said for us to owe no one anything except love. Now, you and I use that word love to mean a lot of different things, to be included about a lot of things. We will use the word love about chocolate, and we'll use that same word about our spouses or about our children. We really don't make much differentiation about what the object of love is. But in the Greek language, the language of the New Testament, there's 4 different kinds of love. One of those we learned about in the 7th grade, or at least I should say I learned about them in the 7th grade. You know, today's kids learn stuff about 1 or 2 grades before I did, so they probably already learned this in the 4th or 5th grade. That one form of love in the Greek language is the word philios. That's how we get that word Philadelphia, brother, the city of brotherly love. Philios is the word for love that has to do with the fact that I love you because I like you. And then Delphia comes from the Greek word for brother, adelphos. I love you because you're my friend. There is something about you that makes me like you. And that's one way in which we talk about love in the Greek language. In English, of course, we can't differentiate the fact that I love somebody as a friend or the fact that I love somebody as my spouse or my children. But in the Greek language, if they said to you, philia, I philia you, they meant I love you as a friend. I like you. You have some good qualities about you that I find interesting. Another word for love in the Greek language is the word storge. It is the kind of love that we have for each other because we're related to them. It is familial love. The love that parents have for their children, the love that brothers and sisters have for each other. Yes, brothers and sisters do love each other despite their behaviors sometimes. The fact that I have to love you because I'm related to you. I don't have any other choice except to love you because I'm related to you. Storge. The kind of love that families have for each other. And then the Greek also had another word called eros, the word that we get the word erotic. Eros is the kind of love that we have for something because there is something innate in that object that makes us love them. It is the kind of love that people have for art. I tell you what, I'm a kind of conservative when it comes to loving art. I got to be able to tell what I'm looking at in order for me to really like it. You know, some things that pass for art, I just kind of look at and say, well, okay, I don't get it. Especially when they tell me it's worth $5 million. I really don't get it then. But we love art. That's eros. We love art. We love something because there is something innately beautiful about the object of love. And it is the root word for the kind of love that we have that's based upon sexual feelings and sensual feelings. It is the root word that we have used for eroticism. Sometimes not in a good way, but it is love based upon the beauty of the object of being loved. And then we come to the fourth Greek word for love, and that is agape. That is the word that is used almost exclusively in the New Testament. Whenever we read that word love in the New Testament, you can bet almost 99%. There's only 2 or 3 other instances when the word philios is used in the New Testament for love, and every other instance is the word agape. When Jesus says, I give you a new command that you love one another, he's using the word agape. When Paul says we're not to owe anything to anybody except love, he's using the word agape. Agape is the love that God has for us. Agape is the kind of love that we have for somebody, not because we necessarily like them like we do with philios, not because of storge, because we're related to them, not because of eros, there's something naturally attractive and beautiful about them, but because we love them because God has loved us first. And we're commanded to love them. Even if we don't like them, we're called to love them. In the United Methodist tradition, when a man and wife stand in front of the minister in order to declare their love for each other and in order to declare the fact that they're going to get hitched up, we ask them, will you take this man or this woman to be your husband, your wife, to have and to hold, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do you part, and all that stuff. And the reply that they are asked to make is, I will. Now, every now and then somebody will say, well, how come it's I will instead of I do? And I tell them, well, you know, on TV it's almost always I do. In some other traditions, it's you answer I do. Some of you probably answered I do instead of I will. But there's 2 reasons why we ask people to say I will. One of the reasons is because we recognize that the taking of someone as your spouse isn't something that you do just when you're standing in front of the preacher. It is something you're committing yourself to do every day of your life. Not only will I take this person to be my spouse today, but tomorrow I will take them to be my spouse, and 6 years from now I'll take them to be my spouse, and 25 years from now I will take them to be my spouse. The second reason that we ask him to say I will instead of I do is that it is a recognition that we are making a volitional decision. We are making a decision that says, even on those days when I'm angry with you, I will take you as my spouse. Even on those days when we're arguing with each other, I will take you as my spouse, and I will love you. That love isn't just an emotion, it is an act of our will. We can will to love someone. And just as we ask a couple to say, I will, Jesus asks us to say, I will love no matter what. Yes, there's some people we don't like very well. There's some people that live a lifestyle counter to the way in which we live. There are people in our world who have done harm to us. But we are asked to say, I will love them. Agape is the love of the will. The definition of agape is that I will the very best for you. I want the very best for you. And in that regard, agape isn't a part of your emotions. Emotion response may be a part of it, but agape is really centered in the fact that we are called to obey God. We are called to make decisions to follow God. And Jesus said, or Paul said, owe no one anything but to love. And we can love because we have been loved by Jesus. William Dixon lived in Brackenthwaite, England, back in the 19th century. He was a widower who had lost his only son in death. One day, he noticed that one of the neighbors' houses was on fire. And although the elderly grandmother escaped, the young grandson was trapped up on a second-story room. Dixon grabbed hold of the water guttering in order to climb up, in order to save that boy. As a result of holding on to that metal gutter, he burned his hand and he was left with scars the rest of his life. Several months later, the grandmother died and this orphan boy was left without a home. It was up to the city fathers to decide who might raise this son, and so they gave people in the community the opportunity to come together and explain why they should be able to raise this son, this boy, as their son. Two men presented themselves. The first man, who like Dixon was also a widower and who'd also lost his son in death, presented himself first, and he explained to the city fathers how he was going to be able to care for this boy and take care of him. He was fairly wealthy. Financially, he could have taken care of the boy much better than William Dixon could have. And he gave a pretty good explanation of why he should be allowed to take this boy in as his son. And then it was William Dixon's turn to stand before the city fathers. As he stood there, he didn't say a word. He simply held up his hand to show the scars left from when he saved the boy from that fire. The city fathers didn't take long to decide that it was William Dixon who would be allowed to raise that boy as his son. Today, as we receive the elements of communion, we are reminded once again of the scars of Jesus, who remind us how much God loved us. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but should have life everlasting. And as we remember the love that God has had for us, we are able to love others the way God has loved us, with agape love. Amen. Let us prepare our hearts and our spirits for the sacrament of communion.